Entertainment Center in Harmarville, Pennsylvania.
Doug Kent opening up the match on lane 25. You're going to hear constant noise this evening. These people are all excited about the Professional Bowlers Tour. And they're excited about that shot. That shot from Doug Kent sent a little message to Mr. Hoskins, our 300 player.
Steve Hoskins, his third telecast of the fall, and of course he bowled a 300 game, the 11th man to do it on television just a few weeks ago in Rochester.
Come on, now, come on. Let's go.
A little emotion from Steve Hoskins on the very first shot. Usually you don't see that kind of emotion, Mike, until the players have gotten well into a match.
As you can see, or hear, the fans are in constant clapping mode here tonight. Kind of abandoned our traditional format of quiet before the player shoots.
Well, if you were expecting a golf tournament, you didn't get one here.
That's too bad. Can I hear you? Can I hear you?
Yeah, you could hear him all right, Steve. Take a look at this, Mike. This was after Steve's first shot, that messenger strike.
Yeah! Come on, now.
He's into it early, that's for sure.
Doug Kent trying to answer that double.
Calm, cool, and collected, Mr. Kent.
Well, a little more sedate than Steve Hoskins, but he was sort of throwing his arms out as if to say, how's that, Steve? That ought to answer that one.
Well, we have a packed house here at the Funfest Entertainment Center in Harmarville, Pennsylvania. Doug Kent evened the match up in frame number 3, lane 25. Sometimes that big hook helps you, and sometimes it's a 4-6-7.
Well, it looks as if he might have just come up at the foul line a little bit on that shot, Mike, and did not get the delayed roll. The ball hooked right through the nose, and unfortunately, it's the 4-6-7. But all he can do right now is throw hard and straight at the 4-7. Tried to bounce it out, but to no avail.
Well, you know, Brian Voss, our number 2 qualifier, made the 7-10 here twice this week.
There were a number of players that bounced pins out of the back. The pins were very, very lively here.
Displacing the idea that you need quiet and silence to bowl well.
I know what Steve Hoskins said. I hear you. There were actually more noise when Steve was on the approach going up to the foul line than there was when he actually let the ball go. Here they go, Steve.
25-pin lead into the 4th frame, trying to make it 35. For 4. He got a message, but it went wide of the target.
It came right in front of the 10-pin. I believe there's a pin
in the 10-pin channel.
Pin in the 10-pin channel. He'll have to wait to have that cleared.
Why is that?
Well, if he were to throw the ball and have the ball hit the pin of the channel, it would be a dead shot. You've got to get that pin cleared. It's that close. If it was on the other side near the 7-pin, he could go ahead and shoot it. They'd clear it later.
Well, they got it out of the way.
All right.
Uh-oh, the machine cycled. So they're going to have to set that 10-pin up.
Well, oops. Yeah, oops. One moment, please. Now, if you'll remember, last week at Virginia
spare,
Beach,
right?
Steve Hoskins, we lost the 10-pin here, so we're going to have to get that reset. And
Kerry was a little late.
Our merit point list, of course, led by the great Walter Ray Williams.
Pete Weber, Tim Chris, Steve Jaros.
Amleto, who's won twice this fall up there.
Rick Steelsmith's had a very, very consistent year. You can see Voss and Kent
And
participants.
Steve Hoskins converts the spare. He leads by 24 pins after 3.5 frames. But Mr. Kent will be back, as will we. The championship round finals of the Bayer-Brunswick Touring Players Championship are being brought to you by Bayer. We cure more headaches than you think. By Domino's, delivering 1 million smiles a day. And by Embassy Suites Hotels. Reserve on the internet or call 1-800-EMBASSY. They're really rocking at the Funfest Entertainment Center. Doug Kent needs to rock out a couple of strikes beginning here in the 4th frame.
Well, Hoskins gave him an opening by not striking in the 4th. Boy, it looked like that 7-pin was down and then stood back up, but
well, that's what he thought. His reaction was total disappointment. Cross lane at the 7-pin. All these players seem to go to a spare ball nowadays.
Well, he wants to throw it hard and straight. There's a shot of his lovely wife and his boy, who looks like a Doug Kent clone. That's Tracy Kent.
And Jacob. The only difference is he's got hair.
Yeah. Mike, that's cruel. Slow and hook it. That's the Doug Kent way.
What time?
Doug Kent with a strike in the 5th frame. The deficit stays at 24 pins. Hoskins now gets up in the bottom half of the 5th.
And I'm sure that Steve's wife Lisa and his little girl Lindsay and son Ryan are back in Tarpon Springs watching Daddy roll. Got a hook. Boy, that ball was wide.
And it almost left the 5-7, but it kicked out of there.
It got very, very wide and it hooked out, but it made it back to the pocket. So fortunate just to leave the 7 pins for Steve.
Switches balls at the 7-pin, cross lane. He's bowled so well this fall. I asked him, is that tiring or invigorating?
I'd say it's a little of both. I'm kind of exhausted right now, but I'll tell you what, I'd just as soon have it keep going. I'd like to bowl a few more tournaments.
Well as he's bowling, I can understand why he'd like to bowl some more tournaments.
Don't blame him a bit. He's got that 23-pin lead right now on Doug Kent. Steve is definitely lined in, although 2 frames ago a 10-pin, the last frame a 7-pin. To keep that 23-pin lead, he needs a strike here.
1989 Rookie of the Year lets it go high.
And now he's left himself a very, very difficult 3-6, 9-10. We take a look at Steve Hoskins. Did not get the ball projected far enough to the right. It was inside of his target. Generally, when you're inside your target, the ball's going to go through the nose.
And bad things happen there. Tough spare, Marsh. You going to hook it into this?
I'm very sure he will hook the ball at the 3-6, 9-10. And I'll tell you what, only a ball with the kind of power that Steve Hoskins imparts on it could ever have made that sleeper 9-pin.
Well, deficit now under 20, and Kent can cut 10 off of that with a double here.
Well, he has the opportunity to actually take the lead if he were to strike in the 6th and 7th frame.
As he strikes, it's now time for Dexter's footwork of the pros.
We take a look at Doug Kent. Heel toe, very, very slow approach. Keeps his body in very good position. A little bit turned to the foul line, but great leverage, great footwork.
Marshall in the 7th frame now, he can actually take the lead.
Yeah, it's a very important shot for him. He's got the opportunity to put Hoskins in a 1-pin deficit, but that's got to really help. That ball really stopped hooking. He can't even believe it either.
How about that, Doug Kent says, and we say how about that, and how about listening to these messages as they're coming up. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
If you're taking
a look at Doug Kent's last shot, Marshall.
Well, it looked to both of us as if that ball was left of his target, and he threw it slower. Now, at this point, Mike, I think it's going right through the nose, and so did you, and I think so did Doug Kent. somehow had hooked out and tripped a very, very late and fortunate 4-pin.
Well, there are about 4 pins on the deck there as he finished up, and his comment was, how about that? A good break. Hoskins, 7th frame. Perfect. It's the ESPN coverage of the ATP World Championship that continues tomorrow at 1:30 from Hanover, Germany. The top 8 players in the world compete in this round-robin tournament format. The official year ends with the championship of this tour. Coverage continues tomorrow through Sunday.
Now Steve Hoskins with the opportunity to take that lead right back from -1 up to +9 with a strike in the 8th frame.
Oh! Gotta like that one. Come on.
The rest of the merit point list, Ryan Schaefer up there, and Eugene McCune, we talk about him a lot.
Wayne Webb bowling great this year. Mark Williams in 18th place. Brian Goebel, and a special hello to Randy Peterson, who's at home not feeling well right now. There's Steve Hoskins in 22nd place. And Dave Arnold will be coming up in our next match
to reclaim the lead. He finished out of the show by 1 pin last week. I asked him how he recovered.
Well, that was actually put behind me probably 25 minutes to half an hour after I got done. I really went through that probably 4 weeks out of the fall. I was really knocking on the door for the show, and it had just fallen out. And I more or less was really in deep thought on what kept happening and why it kept happening. I was disappointed at the time, but I really was more or less looking forward to this week, being the last week and being a good tournament.
He's looking forward to one more strike right now and doesn't get it. Wow, he adjusted for that shot that went high.
That certainly was residue from the prior frame where he tripped the 4-pin. He made it a point, Mike, to make sure to project this ball well to the right, and it did get way out there. Made the move back, knocked the 2-pin out, and end up with the 8-10. Now he puts himself in a very, very bad situation. Had he have struck in the 9th and then out in the 10th frame, he would have won by 1 pin. He would have shut Steve Hoskins out. He can't shut him out now. In fact, he needs to strike out just to force Steve Hoskins to really make some moves here in the 9th and 10th.
Hoskins leading by 13 in the 9th frame.
Yeah.
Now it's 23.
This is fine.
Well, right now Steve Hoskins going at a 234 pace. The best Doug Kent can do is 221, so simply it's a matter of Steve Hoskins getting up in the 10th frame, filling 18 pins. Take a look at Steve Hoskins, that ripping through the ball. Does he like it?
He's into it tonight.
I think this crowd has really pulled out the showman in Steve Hoskins. Needs to fill 18.
Well, that's going to be enough right there.
Good shot.
Well, it's enough, what, for a tie, I guess, if he would miss it.
That's right, Mike. If he were to miss this, Doug Kent could go on.
Some noise there.
He says he wants noise. He needs to make this fair to wrap up this first match.
He likes that, I'll tell you what.
I can get used to this. I can get used to this.
I'll tell you what, this crowd's not going to have any energy left by the time the 4th game is over.
They'll be as tired as the players.
Hoskins going to be their winner in match number 1, no matter what happens now. A strike he'll finish with 232. Just wants to keep his stroke and the crowd going for match number 2.
Good shot, Tom. All right.
231 Hoskins finishes with.
Come on.
Doug Kent, a nice paycheck, $8,000 that he'll take home, but he's the loser in match number 1. When we come back, as we watch his final shots, When we come back, Marshall Holman is going to have an average builder on how you can use different equipment to adjust to conditions. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back.